Brother man.
Brother man.
What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Elevate the Show. Welcome back to Real and Raw episode 2. If you haven't watched episode 1 already, go ahead and watch episode 1, then come back and watch episode 2. Or you can watch 2 and then 1. They're separate episodes, but sometimes they will blend to be like a part 1 or part 2. But I want to share with you today more about the environment. And by environment, I mean your environment. The people you surround yourself around. The things you surround yourself around. The things you indulge in on your free time. That environment. And a lot of us, we probably have heard the saying, oh, I am a product of my environment. So, like the saying goes, you are what you eat. Let's change it up. You are what you watch. So if you watch nothing but culture, you're a part of that culture now. Now by culture, whatever you watch, whether it's black culture, white culture, anime culture, news culture, theory, conspiracy culture, or anything like that, you're a part of that culture. And that really has an influence on how you view things. Me, recently, I have been trying to change what I watch. I have been trying to change what I hear because not only you are what you watch, you are what you listen to. So if you listen to nothing but, like I said, we're going to be raw and real here. If you listen to nothing but people who talk about gangs and murder and sex and all that stuff, you'll slowly begin to evolve into that environment. Now, if you listen to things that are motivational and uplifting and positive, you'll slowly but surely become a part of that environment, a part of that culture. Look at it this way. If you got 5 stupid people, if you got 5 stupid people and you just happen to click up with these 5 stupid people and you hang with them for 6 months to a year, you're going to become that 6th stupid person. That's just being real and that's just being raw because you're going to pick up on what they do. You're going to pick up on what they say. You're going to pick up on their culture. If you hang around 5 wealthy individuals, eventually, you'll become the 6th. And by that, I mean you might be not as wealthy as them, or you might be more wealthy than them. But see, we as humans, and like I said in episode 1, this is going to be the catchphrase. This is what we need to hear, not what we want to hear. We have all, especially the generation I'm in and the generation before then, the generation after, not before us. Because if I'm a 90s baby, the generation from 2001 down, the Generation Z, we have introduced this I gotta go get it culture. I gotta have the money culture. Money brings happiness culture. Independent culture. We have now become a product of that environment. We gotta break out of that cycle. What do I mean by breaking out of that cycle? Okay, so let me break it down to you. When you put yourself and get your mind frame of I gotta go get it by any means necessary, and you hang around individuals and you listen to things and you watch things that have that same mentality, you'll slowly fall into that cycle. And a cycle, as long as it has energy and as long as it has motion, it'll continue to move and then you get lost. But if you remember in episode 1, I sat there and said, but when God has a plan and when God has a purpose, He can stop that motion. He can pull you out of it. And when you become a part of that culture, when you become a part of that environment, you got to understand, just look at several stories in the Bible. We can talk about when Jesus went up to the mountain and the disciples, they was on the boat and they got hit with a big old storm. And then when Jesus said, peace, be still. everything on the planet, not in there where they was at, everything on the planet had to stop and say, hold on, wait. The Son of God sat there and said, peace be still. The birds over there in the Galapagos Islands that was over there just tweeting and singing away had to say, hold on, wait now. Jesus just said, peace, be still. Then he sat there and called out to Peter. He sat there and said, you know, you come out, walk out on the water. I'm paraphrasing. I'm paraphrasing, y'all. Please don't cover me in the comments. I'm paraphrasing. But basically, Peter's like, well, Lord, is that really you? Is that really you? Let me come walk out on that water with you then. Jesus like, come on. The water shouldn't be that cold. You're going to be walking on top of it. The minute that Peter was in that environment, the minute he was in that godly culture, no fear, no pain, only peace. He was walking out there. As soon as he took his eyes off Jesus. See, that's what we do. When we're first brought into this world, we don't know what sin is. We get introduced to it the same way that Snow White was introduced to the apple. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let me break it down to you. The world introduced sin to us as something that we like. And the world technically is a culture all by itself. They say that it's okay to do this, it's okay to do that, when in reality it's not. And when we take our eyes off what God has called us to do, we instantly begin to sink. If you remember the scene from, what was it? What was that movie that Jordan Peele did? Get Out. When the lady sat there and said, sink, that's us. We begin to sink into the environment that we are now allowed ourselves to be in. We just sink and just sink and just sink, and we keep falling and falling and falling. But in our head, we thinking, oh, we doing everything right. See, that's what happened with Peter. As soon as he took his eyes off that godly environment, as soon as he took his eyes off that godly culture, he began to fall into the water. But see, this is the way that God works. This is the way that Jesus works, because in that story, Jesus walked over there, grabbed Peter by his arm, and pulled him back out the water. That's what God is trying to do with us today in this twisted thing we call life. He's trying to pull us out before it's too late, before we drown into the culture that sit there and says, hey, you should have sex before you're married. Hey, you should go out and go do X, Y, Z. Hey, it's okay to look at all this pornographic stuff. Hey, it's okay to go do X, Y, Z. Hey, it's okay to go kill, steal, and destroy. No, it is not. God is trying to pull us out of that, and that's the thing. We just fall victim because we have become a product of the environment that sits there and says, hey, go do this. Hey, it's okay to go do that. Hey, it's okay to go steal, kill, destroy. And that's nothing but the devil working in overtime, because in the end, the devil knows that he loses, and he's got to try his best to pull as many people down as he can. But see, when God steps in, and like I said in episode 1, when God has a plan and a purpose for you, he'll sit there, walk over to you, he'll sit there and pull you out of that sinkhole. He'll pull you out of that sinking feeling. But you got to be willing to submit. You got to be willing to give up. You got to be willing. That's the thing we also need to understand. That's what we got to be willing. That's the key word. We got to be willing to submit. We got to be willing to let go of the old us. Now, am I talking out here saying that, oh, I'm perfect, this, that, and the other? No, I'm not perfect. Nobody is perfect. You know, the people that I will eventually, try to do interviews for and, ask these questions, get their opinions and their thoughts on everything. None of us are perfect, okay? Keep in mind, God never called on perfect people. Think about it for a second. Even if you're not a person who avidly reads the Bible and you just know some of the stories, think about it. Was Moses perfect? No. Was David perfect? No. Was Jonah perfect? No. There's plenty of other people that I can't name right now. None of them were perfect, but see, when God called them, when God ordained them to do what God asked them to do, that made them good in God's eyes. And they had to fulfill that purpose. So the question is, what is that calling that God has called you to do? Here at Elevate the Show, we did the podcast, we did the 101s, we did the motivational thing. And slowly we start drifting away from what originally this channel was meant for. It was meant to talk about things we need to hear, not what we want to hear. And from there, I need us to understand the people who are subscribed and the people who aren't subscribed. Share this video with people, because the more that it is shared, the more that the godly culture, the more of the godly environment will be pushed out there. And like I said, I will be paraphrasing some things, so make sure you let them know that too beforehand. By some, look, he's not up here word for word in the Bible. Don't go in there and say, he didn't say that right. He didn't say it right at all. Oh, we need to go get the Bible police. I'm paraphrasing, y'all. I had somebody said, they said, judging from my head, not from my heart, because the Lord knows I'm coming from a good place with this. And I want you to understand that in some environments that I know I have been in, I have been in some crazy environments. Like, I tend to be transparent with y'all because I need to be transparent so that y'all can relate more to what needs to be shared and what needs to be heard. I remember back in college, I cannot remember whether I was talking some real stuff or just casual conversation. I was openly in the living room in my college dorm room, and behind me, somebody was rolling up. You could put two and two together. Anyway, I'm sitting there talking, and here they go. They done sparked it up and everything. They hit the smell where I couldn't smell it. But then over the next few moments, in that environment, things began to change. They were blowing the smoke in my area. And in order for us to live, we got to breathe in and breathe out. We got to breathe in the oxygen, let out the carbon dioxide. They were breathing this stuff in my environment. And in there, for me being sober, all of a sudden, I was on cloud nine. I'm just being transparent. But in that moment, before I was even in that situation, I was speaking so highly of my roommates, saying, hey, they respect the fact that, that I don't do this. But in that moment, they disrespected it to where now I'm not cool with none of those individuals. They can call my phone right now. I'm not going to pick up because I don't want to be reintroduced into that environment. Now, by me saying that, am I saying, oh, be hurtful and, sit there and throw them down and put their, throw their name in? No, don't do that, because that's not that godly culture. That's not that godly environment. You got to put yourself in the mind frame, what would Jesus really do in that situation? Think about it. So when you're at work and you're in an environment where people are constantly talking and blabbering and rumors and gossip and all that, don't become a part of that environment. God called us to be different. He called us to stand out. He called us to be leaders. He called us to be apostles. He called us to be ambassadors for his word. Nowhere do you see or you have heard when people sit there and say, well, the Lord said gossip about this person. The Lord told me to talk about this person. No, the Lord does not operate like that. The Lord says a lot of things. And a lot of those things are basically saying, look, treat people how you would want to be treated. Do good, no matter if they're your enemy. Now, like I said, that it don't say nowhere there in the Bible. I'm just saying that just in general. But the way the Lord operates, he wants us to be in an environment to where it is welcoming of his spirit. And so the question I have for you today is, as I close, like I said, this video was not intended to be long. What environment and what culture are you really in? Are you following the world's culture and environment and slowly sinking? Or are you going to let go and let God have his way? Because when God has a plan and a purpose for you, once you begin to really seek after him, because you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. That's going to be an episode on here as well. Are you willing to say, hey, look, God, I'm willing to let all that go. I'm willing to, hey, I appreciate you. Because keep in mind, God is very understanding. Because we don't do some things that don't had us messed up, looking crazy, had us sitting there crying up under the cover, sitting there talking to the toilet, sitting there talking to a bottle of liquor, talking to some Douce or something, talking to the herbs and all that. And God is saying, why aren't you coming to me? Because when you're feeling pain, you're supposed to pray. That's the only way you can shorten the pain. Because I heard Tony Evans say that basically, if you want the pain to, you know, shrink, you got to increase your prayer time. And I said, I'll let this be the closing. Prayer is not a monologue, it's a dialogue. When you talk to God, you got to be willing to listen to God too. Ooh, that one right there hit. That one right there hit. If you talk to God, you got to be willing to listen to what God says. He'll listen to you all day because God has a love for you that is unmatched. Nobody on this planet, I don't care if you've been married for 1 year or 50 years, that love that their significant other has for you will never match the kind of love that God has for you because you're still breathing today. Because he still has a plan and a purpose for you. So I leave you with this rhetorical question. What are you doing to change your environment? What are you doing to change the culture you are in? Other than that, at Elevate the Show, we love you. Virtual hugs, no virtual kisses, because that's just weird. But other than that, man, y'all enjoy y'all day, y'all evening. Watch us on YouTube. Pull us up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. Share this with somebody that really needs to hear this. And hopefully everything that is said resonates inside of your spirit. But other than that, y'all have a good one. Y'all be blessed. And remember, start stepping into that godly culture, into that godly environment. And with that being said, we out.